Hey, everybody, welcome to the Destiny Amplified podcast. So glad you're joining us. It's just been our honor to come to you and give you an opportunity to maybe hear some new things that you haven't heard before, or maybe some things you've heard before, but now from different sources, and maybe it lands to you in a different way. In the culture that we live in the world that we live in, it's a little bit daunting to resource people when there are resources available at the tip of your fingers, but we believe there's something valuable about getting resources from trusted DNA, and that's really what we desire to do here through Destiny Network and with the Destiny Network Amplified podcast. So we're so glad that you've joined us. Hey, if it's been a blessing to you and you haven't yet done this, take a minute, like the podcast, and maybe even at the end of the podcast today, share it with a friend. Let them know how it's been a blessing to you. So thanks for joining us, and we're glad that you're here today. And I have two incredibly special guests, not just special, but they're friends. And they're joining with me today as we talk about a subject that's really common and really popular, and it is on the subject of church planting. So let me introduce who's with us today. First, we have Dr. Archie Callahan, who started the Bridge Church in Virginia Beach in 1998 along with his wife, and has been serving there ever since, and God has done great things. They've expanded and they've multiplied, and now they have 3 campuses and are looking to continue to add campuses regularly in the years to come. And we're glad, Archie, why don't you just say hi to everybody?
Hey guys, man, it's good to be here. Thank you, Ryan, for having us, man.
Yeah, it's an honor. And then secondly, we have Trey Jones with us today. Trey Jones planted Life Church in Macon, Georgia. And after launching Life Church in Macon, Georgia, they launched 2 other churches out of that. So both of these guys have been involved in church planting really from very, very early on in their ministry, and they continue to be involved in church planting. Now, Trey oversees healthy, growing, multiplying churches where he's involved in training, equipping, coaching, and coming alongside church planters and pastors that are looking forward to planting churches. And so not only are these guys knowledgeable in the subject we're going to be talking about, as a matter of fact, you might even hear before the podcast is over, Dr. Trey Jones, his whole doctoral dissertation was on the subject of church planting. But they don't just come with a knowledge base, they come with the experience, and they come with a kingdom heart behind it. And so I'm honored to have these guys that are also friends with me today.
Good to be here.
Good to be here. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks for having us.
let's just start with this question, because maybe people are wondering, why church planting? Why church planting?
I'm going to let Trey start us off.
Well, I think Peter Wagner was the first person to say it back in the 90s. But when we're talking about America in the context of the U.S., church planting is still the most effective way of reaching unchurched and dechurched people in the U.S. All the studies still bear that out. Even some of the more recent studies tell us that 60 to 80% of the people who are involved in what would be considered a church plant prior to that were completely unaffiliated with any church at all. So it reaches people where established churches, typically 80 to 90% of the people in an established church that's been around for a while come from other churches. So again, in the context of America, it's still what's so critically important in building the body of Christ in the U.S., but also in bringing innovation and ideas that not just helps church plants, but also helps established churches. So, and I know here at Destiny, we believe that the local church is God's plan A for changing the world. And we believe that primarily happens, multiplication happens primarily through church planting.
Yeah, you want to add to that, Archie?
Yeah, I just believe if we're going to fulfill the Great Commission, we have to be on mission by planting churches, multiplying campuses, because like Trey said, it's the most effective way to evangelize. Even in the New Testament in Acts 2, the Bible says the Lord added to their numbers daily those who were being saved. If we have daily addition coming into the kingdom of God, we have to have church multiplication in order to handle the harvest. And I just believe planting churches or planting new campuses gives people an inroads, an easy on-ramp into the life of the church.
You brought up an interesting thing there. You said not only planting churches, but planting campuses. So just to make sure that everybody's tracking with us, kind of understands the difference, how would you delineate the difference between those two things?
Church plant is different than planting a campus. A church plant, although it can have a mother church that actually pushes it out, is a church plant is more autonomous. A campus is just another representation of a local church in a different region or different area within that region. And we plant campuses out of Bridge Church, but we've also helped finance plain out church plants. When I came to Virginia Beach in 1998, I was a church plant. I parachuted in, didn't know anybody, and started Bridge Church. That was very hard. I actually think it's easier to multiply campuses than to just have individual church plants because there's systems that are already built in. There's a system of coaching, mentoring, the system of discipleship, evangelism, administration, helps, all that's built into campuses already, and it makes it easier for the campus pastor to facilitate growing the launch team for that campus and facilitating ministry without having all the headache and all the responsibility of every little detail having to be in place. So it conserves his energy so he can put his energy toward growing it, toward evangelizing, toward multiplying leaders. I think it's just more effective to plant campuses. And but we have to have church plants too. They need both. I think they complement each other. They don't have to work against each other. They can complement each other.
Yeah, that's so good. So both of you guys shared statistics, things that happen with church plants and why they're important. So I'm going to start with a question for Archie. Archie, so tell me, give me in just a minute here some real life stories about how you saw those statistics play out, both in the church that you planted, the Bridge, and in the campuses you plant. And then I'm going to shift to you, Trey, and you tell me, with some of the guys that you're working with that are planting churches, how are you seeing those things play out in the churches that are being planted? Just some testimonies about that back up the data that we just talked about.
Okay, on the evangelism side, when we first started in 1998, people just automatically began to get saved. It was a new church. People were easily drawn to it. There was no preconceived ideas. We tried to do away with any barriers that would keep people from coming to church. I dressed a little bit different, didn't wear ties or anything like that. And people just naturally came in. So much so that I actually believed, because we didn't have a lot of transfer growth in the beginning, that all the people that were getting saved, it was hard to disciple them because we didn't have mature believers to disciple them. So it actually hurt us a little bit in the beginning. And so as we've expanded in other campuses, what we've noticed every time we expand in campuses, our level of salvations go up. Last year we had, I think, 965 people come to Christ or make decisions for Christ at one of our campuses. This year we're probably 650 with 4 months to go, but we've baptized over 350 people this year. And I contribute that to not just holding everybody on one campus, but actually being willing to plant people out of the main campus into other areas of this region that actually, oftentimes we talk about taking the territory. It's easier to take territory with multiple campuses than it is with one campus, because there are natural barriers in any city or any region that people won't cross to get to a church. For us in this region, it's 264. Most of our people come from the south of 264, not the north of 264, because that's a barrier in their mind. So if we want to reach people on the north end of Virginia Beach, we got to be willing to put a campus in that area. And it just becomes so easy for people to filter in because you need people on the team, and so you're going to draw them, you're going to put them into the team. It's easy to assimilate people in new campuses and to evangelize new people in campuses.
That's really good. Trey, give us some of those kind of reports with the people that you're currently working with as you coach church planters.
Yeah. Yeah, so last year we launched 18 new churches, and just in year one of those 18 new churches, those represent 1,118 new decisions for Christ.
It's incredible.
Wow.
Right? That's new people coming into the kingdom. We could talk about the church plant in Vegas that was reaching mostly Hawaiians. Hawaiians make up a large segment of the population there in Vegas, and they grew a launch team to about 60 people. A lot of that was salvation, but then by week two post launch, man, they're baptizing 40 something people and doing 30 child dedications. I mean, it's just it for some reason. I think it's just how God wires it. I think we can look at all the, and we can look at all the nuts and bolts dynamics, but there's still God's invisible power at work. I think it's just the way He's designed it. And we see that with church planners. Some of our guys, maybe the best tool they have in their kit is they were a part of a Celebrate Recovery somewhere. So they'll move into a city where they don't know anybody. They'll rent a community center and start a CR group. And then they're starting to reach people with addictions and habits and hang-ups, and they're helping them get free and then ministering to their families. So transformation gets built in at the beginning. And I think that's one reason why church plants excel, because to survive and to make it, they better engage in evangelism. If they don't engage in evangelism, they're dead in the water. And for an established church, we can kind of sit back and begin to coast a little bit and take it easy. But for a church plant, if you don't engage in outreach, community engagement, evangelism, and build a positive awareness in the community of your presence and the vision that God's given you, you're in trouble. So I think it's awesome. I mean, we're seeing guys engage in different ways in their communities. It's just amazing what God does when we really lean in. And for us in our story, most of the people we built the church with, they were unchurched and some were dechurched. For us, a lot of them were young adults and young families that hadn't been in church in years. They'd gone off to college and fallen away from church and the things of God. And now they were at a time in their life where they're like, okay, we need to reconnect with something. And it was amazing to be a part of that journey. So church planting definitely helps you reach the unchurched and dechurched in cities and communities.
That's so good. Trey, you said something earlier that I had to write down. I made note of it, and I thought it was very intriguing. And you said that church planting brings innovation and ideas that help establish churches. Mm-hmm. And immediately I thought of, this is a little bit crazy, but I'm going to use it, NASA, when they started making plans to go to the moon, they started, all kind of things were invented to help the astronauts that now we benefit. They're sold regularly. They're used in multiple things, throughout the world. Tell me, and I think this is probably true, and Archie, you could speak to this, that as you even plant campuses, there's innovation that helps the mother church, so to speak. But tell me some of the innovation and ideas and things that have helped already established churches. Either one of you.
Yeah. I think, just again, when it comes to evangelism and outreach, when it comes to learning how to contextualize ministry. Mm-hmm. So when we moved into our community there in Georgia, there were churches that were still, you'd have walked into them, you'd have thought it was the 70s. We came in, we had to be more contextual, we had to be a little bit more current, and that kind of raised the water level. So just in the area of evangelism, in the way of how do we contextualize the gospel in a way that connects with people here now, language that's used, and it's this is a kind of a backhanded way of looking at it, but a new church comes into a community and they start reaching a lot of people and other churches are like, man, we better get with the program, and they realize they're doing something we need to be doing, and it brings motivation and inspiration. So yeah, I would say the primary ways is how to connect and engage in that community. It brings it brings evangelism back to the forefront, and just innovation and how do we communicate, and in a different context, because that church planter's coming in with a different perspective. He or she's coming in really as an outsider, so they can see things maybe a little more clearly than people who've just been there for a
Mhm.
really long time.
That's good. Archie, what do you want to
Good.
say?
I think for me, because we're planting campuses now, and our campus pastors are anywhere from 15 to 20 years younger than me or more. So it actually increases my excitement as the lead pastor. It keeps me young. It keeps me fresh. They challenge my ideas, and and I let them speak into my life in certain situations and circumstances. And when you do a campus model, I think it creates synergy. It creates synergy in the advertisement area and the outreach area. People begin to recognize the name of your church. Oh, yeah, I've heard of that church. You're over here, or you're over here. And it creates this synergy. So if you're in the region and you're taking a region, if they go to one of your campuses and maybe it's too small or too large, they'll try another one and they'll stick. And it just creates, for the last year, man. I think the last year we've grown about the last stat I saw, we've grown about 600 people in the last year.
Wow.
I don't think that would have ever happened if we did not expand and create campuses. I think God blesses us as we choose to step out in faith and not try to keep everyone in one building, but to really take 30 or 40 people and say, we want you to go here. We want you to start a new bridge campus, whether that's 30 minutes away, 40 minutes away, or 20 minutes away. I believe God blesses that. I think in the past, sometimes we've seen church splits as something the devil did, but sometimes I think God allows it so it will expand his kingdom. I'm not saying all church splits are from God, but I'm just saying, just like in the New Testament, where persecution came in and dispersed the disciples and the people of God, they went out and evangelized. If persecution would have never came, they would have never left the upper room. But if we will intentionally plant campuses or intentionally give toward church plants, I think God blesses that and it increases you according to your faith. I think it's natural to want to hold on to people, but I think for a lead pastor like me, I have to get comfortable with letting 40 or 50 people go or more
Yeah.
every time we do a campus, and they're not. It's usually some of our best people that we let go. Some people that are great worship leaders, great musicians, or great leaders, because, and that takes faith. It takes faith on my part that if I'm going to give, I got to believe that God's going to increase the main campus, and we're not working against each other. We're on the same team, and I've seen God bless that. Whether we're planting a campus or whether we're helping fund other church plants, every year we try to do something in the area of church planting. Whether we're planting a campus or we're giving to a church plant in the U.S. or around the world. And most of the time it's in the U.S. And we have partnered with Trey and the organization that he leads, and they're doing a phenomenal job in training church planners. And I highly recommend those guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You guys are getting me excited. And I imagine there's other pastors that are watching. Some may have already been considering maybe we need to launch a campus. Maybe we need to get involved in church planting. And maybe some just all of a sudden as they're listening today thinking, my goodness, I need to expand my world a little bit. So let's just say there is a pastor considering church planting or a campus. How does a pastor know when it's the right time to plant?
That means everything. I think you have to pray it through. You need to have a sense that it's God's timing. but you can't look at all the external situations because it may be God's timing, but it doesn't feel like it's the right timing because you look at finances, you look at the wind, you look at what's going on. But you have a sense of timing in your heart. You have a sense of God's voice. You have unity in leadership. You want to get buy-in from leadership, and then you have to know where the place is, and you have to have a person. I know the last time we planted a campus 2.5 years ago, I announced we were planning a campus before I knew who was going to lead that campus. But as soon as I announced it, God brought us the couple. He brought us the people that would be the campus pastors, and they're doing a phenomenal job. But you have to step out by faith. It's never going to be convenient. It's never going to be easy. The first one for us was the hardest. This second, third campus was a whole lot easier. And man, God has just blessed it to the point they've purchased 16 acres, 40 minutes from Virginia Beach. That's totally paid off. Got about $1.6 million in the bank. I'm talking about a
Just
two and a
that
half
campus.
year old.
Just that
Just that
campus.
campus.
Yeah.
Just that campus. God has just blessed it, man. And I'm like, wow. God has just supernaturally kissed that with his grace, man. And it just, I think you'll know in your heart, and God will speak to you and he'll speak to the people around you. And we had to build that DNA into our main campus that we're going to be a church that plants campuses and plants churches so they don't feel like they're losing something. They feel like they're gaining something and expanding the kingdom of God. So when we celebrate wins, we don't celebrate wins as an individual campus so much. We celebrate wins as a church that has 3 campuses, and people buy into it. They cheer for other campuses and cheer for going forward because they know we're reaching people and changing lives.
So good.
Yeah, I think Archie's right. You've got to kind of read what's going on. It's and it really comes down to the who, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we can say, hey, we want to go, 2 counties over, but you've got to have the right person. But let me also kind of draw this analogy. You remember when we were all young and we were like, well, we want to find the right time to have kids, and then you realize there's never a good time to have
You
kids.
can never
And
afford it.
if you can never afford it,
That's
you can
right.
never anything. And if you wait for everything's perfect, you're going to be 60 going, well, we're still waiting.
Uh-huh.
I think planting a church out of whether it's a campus or sending people out just to kind of as a mother church to plant, maybe it's not one church in multiple locations, but it's a little bit more autonomous. I think sometimes it's kind of like having kids. It's never the right time. It's never perfect. And if you wait until it's perfect, you'll never get there. And if you wait for the guy who on a scale of 1 to 10 is a 9 or a 10 to walk through the door, you'll probably never plant a church because those guys are very few.
Yes.
But you just got to settle it in your heart with God. You've got to hear from him. And I agree with Archie. One of the plants that we launched that's done exceptionally well, we kind of realized it was time to plant because you could tell the nest was getting rustled,
Hmm.
right? Things were getting a little uncomfortable at home. So maybe it's time to kind of launch you out to do what God's called you to do. And it was a beautiful thing. So yeah, I think you got to know the time, but you got to have the right person. But if you wait for the perfect time, you'll never do it.
No, there's no perfect time.
Yeah.
Not for church planning.
There's no perfect time, and it sounds to me like it just requires a whole lot of faith, trusting God, believing God, and going for it, right?
Yeah.
Imagine that we get back to those supernatural things. It's strategy, but yes, it's more than strategy. It's actually walking supernaturally, believing God, trusting God, obeying God, and stepping out in faith, right?
Hmm.
You guys are talking a little bit about picking the right person. I want us to pick up that question at the beginning of the next episode. But I think maybe the last question for this episode might be this. So if we've determined that we're going to be ascending church and we want to be ascending church, what are some of the markers that we need to be looking for that says we are a healthy church and ready to do this?
Healthy church. I think there's a difference between a perfect church and a healthy church. There's no perfect church, but there can be healthy churches that are emotionally healthy, spiritually healthy, healthy systems.
Hmm.
And I think that makes it easier. Do you have to be totally healthy
Hmm.
to plant a church? I don't think so, because our first one, we were not totally healthy when we planted our second campus, actually. But we learned. I think sometimes we want to know everything before we actually do it, but we have to be willing to learn on the job training, on the job learning as you're doing. In the New Testament, it says, into all the world. Sometimes the go is the hardest because you don't know all the details. You don't know the outcome. You don't know what the end will be, but you just do it by faith, and you step out and do it, and then you begin to build the systems. Because sometimes we try to take systems from other organizations and try to put them in the organization that we're leading, and sometimes they work. A lot of times they don't. I think you build as you are going. You build as you do, and you begin to create an organization. It doesn't look just like everybody else's, but it works for your context.
Hmm.
So you have to contextualize the gospel. You have to contextualize church planning to the area that you're in. For instance, we're in an area, if you're not growing by 35% a year, you will be dying, because about 31% of all the people in the area where we live will transfer out every year. So if I want to grow 4%, I've got to grow by 35% in reality. And so knowing that context and knowing how transient this area is, there's a different approach that you have to take. You're not going to have people 10 years. You're not going to have them 5 years. You might have them 2 to 3 years. And so your systems have to be fluid enough and agile enough to be able to raise those people up fast, so you can place them in ministry so they can feel a part, so that they can help expand the mission of the ministry before they leave the area. So I think all of it has to be contextualized. Health is a relevant term. What is healthy? What does that look like? I think the church is no more healthier than the senior leader. So I have to be healthy. I
Hmm.
have to take vacations. I have to get away with God. I have to have a strong marriage, a healthy marriage, and that translates to the organization.
I knew the apostle of vacation would work that in there somehow. Trey, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would say a couple things. I think, first of all, if we're looking for markers of health, well, healthy things grow. So if you're in a church that's growing, that God's bringing addition and multiplication of just changed lives and testimonies, if He's trusting you with those people, then that's a good sign. That's something you need to pay attention to. If you're in a context where your church isn't really growing and you're not seeing a lot of salvations and baptisms and transformations, then that's probably a sign that you're not very healthy, and that local
Mhm.
church just needs to focus on its health. So I would start very simply. Something else a pastor can do is bring in an outside voice.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Bring in a
Yeah,
coach or a
so good.
consultant, somebody who uh, has nothing to lose by being honest, and just can say, okay, here's some healthy things, here's some unhealthy things. Um, but there's markers of a healthy church. What's the water level of the Holy Spirit's presence and activity in that church?
Mhm.
Is it a praying church? Is it, again, are there salvations and baptisms? What's the relational dynamics? Um, is there a process? Is there a greenhouse within that local church where disciples are being made and leaders are being developed? All of those markers need to be evaluated and looked at. Um, and I think too, I think we have to get to the why. And Archie's right. The church will be as healthy as the senior leader. Um, but I think when we talk about church planting out of a mother, whether it's a campuses or whether it's um, raise them up and send them out, which is kind of what we did. I think we really have to look at our why. because I don't think it'll be healthier than our why.
That's really
You
good.
know, there was a day in kind of the Pentecostal charismatic world, it was all about replicating our DNA. You know, well, we got to just reproduce our DNA. That was kind of the why behind everything. Listen, if reaching lost people isn't more important than replicating your DNA, then that's probably going to be unhealthy.
So good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, Trey.
You know,
And
the why is important.
yeah, and with most Pentecostal charismatic churches, a lot of them, for the most part, I'm not saying all, but a lot of them can't get past just having good church services.
Yep.
It's beyond that. I love church. I could probably do it with my eyes closed, but it has to go beyond good church services to actually expanding into other regions and following Jesus into the mission field.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think we're bringing Jesus to another region. No, Jesus is already there. We're just going to partner with him
Yeah.
in what he's doing in that region at that moment. And I remember speaking with Bishop Tony Miller. We were at one day in Oklahoma City, and he was doing a teaching, and then I had to come up behind him and teach. And nobody wants to follow Bishop Tony Miller. That would be crazy to want to do that. But he was teaching on healthy churches and how healthy things grow, and he taught that whole session. And I came up behind him and I said, not only do healthy things grow, unhealthy things grow, they just grow unhealthy. And we need to understand that we can either grow healthy or unhealthy, but we get to choose. And I want our church to be healthy. And one way to make it healthy is to replicate. It's to expand. It's to plant other churches, whether it's my church or not. Whether I can partner with somebody and say, "Hey, I'm going to finance that. I can coach that. I can help." Launch people there. We have to have a heart of generosity. Generosity must go beyond just giving money. I need to be generous with my time, with my compliments, with my encouragement, with my finances. So I believe God is looking for his church to have a heart to be generous toward church planting, to expanding his kingdom.
That's so good, guys. Thank you so much. Listen, we've enjoyed this conversation so far, but we want you to know it's not over. And before we leave, I want to do one thing that I think is really important, because Archie wasn't throwing darts at Pentecostal charismatic churches.
No.
We are that variety of church. He was throwing darts at us. So I just want to, in case you don't understand the context of who we are, make sure everybody understands that is who we are. And that is something I think we've all talked about is a reality amongst our flavor, our stream of churches. It can be a danger. But anyway, we're so glad you joined the DNA podcast. We want you to join again. There'll be another episode coming out in 2 weeks, because we want to complete. There we go. That's the word we want to finish this conversation about church planting.